in an era of lots of people who have been incredibly good at the human-led CS motion and have
Hmm.
tons of experience in that,
Hmm.
suddenly getting put in charge of a digital strategy. And they're like, what? I keep hearing this word digital. What is it? I can try, but like I've never thought in terms of campaigns and programs like this. So how do I do this?
Once again, welcome to the Digital Customer Experience Podcast with me, Alex Turkovich. So glad you could join us here today and every week as we explore how digital can help enhance the customer and employee experience. My goal is to share what my guests and I have learned over the years so that you can get the insights that you need to evolve your own digital programs. If you'd like more info, need to get in touch, or sign up for the weekly companion newsletter that has additional articles and resources in it, go to digitalcustomersuccess.com. For now, let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the Digital CX Podcast, the show where we talk about all things digital in CX. So glad to have you back this week. Today, I'm joined by an incredible guest, Holly Goodliffe, who is a marketer turned digital CX expert, has had a lot of cool gigs under her belt, currently runs a consulting firm focused on digital CS. And so she has seen a lot and is seeing a lot right now. So we talk about quite a few things, philosophical and tangible, related to digital CX. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Holly Goodliffe, because I sure did. Holly, I'm so pleased that you've joined us on the show today. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me, Alex.
Yeah, for sure. I was trying to put together when we first met, and we've basically been kind of chatting since, I don't know, late last year or something like that, on and
Exactly.
off. And you have
Uh-huh.
lots of great things to say about digital and just CS and all this kind of fun stuff. And we have a lot of mutuals. So I was like, come on, Holly, let's get on the show.
Come on, let's do this, Alex.
So tell me a little bit about Holly and Holly's journey into CS and what that's looked like.
Yeah. Holly's journey actually started in the
Can we
nonprofit.
stop referring to yourself as Holly?
Okay. I actually started back in the day in the nonprofit world,
Oh,
then went
cool.
to business, well, did a lot of marketing for nonprofits,
Hmm.
went to business school, pivoted into tech. In tech, I had roles in marketing and in CX. So then when this newfangled thing, digital CS, which it wasn't called that yet, started rising, it was very natural for me to do that.
Sure.
At Adobe, I actually did what we now call digital CS, but I was sitting in marketing. We called it retention marketing,
Yeah.
and got to be the first getting things started for Adobe's enterprise business, starting with Adobe Analytics of how do we help customers succeed using digital channels. Then I got to go to Heap and start Heap's digital CS function from scratch as well. And
You are our
also our
third Heap veteran on this show, by
Oh,
the
I know.
way.
We have a very strong, beautiful
Uh-huh.
connection with you, Alex.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I'm honored to be the third Heapster on here. So then from Heap went to Content Square and got to start digital CS from scratch at Content Square. And then after doing it all three times in three different ways and seeing all the patterns and the pitfalls and the joys and the pains, decided to go out on my own as a consultant and help tons of companies. I think this is a really exciting time to be obviously working in digital, being able to help so many companies who are now fully convinced that they want
Yeah.
to do it, and just are like, how do I do it
How?
yesterday?
Hmm.
Help me figure this out. So that's really fun for me to get to help tons of different clients with how do they do this.
Yeah, the why isn't really a question anymore. It is the how, right? And
Mm-hmm.
for many, it's still this proverbial black box that we're all talking about. Like, you either have it or you
Mm-hmm.
don't. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a great time, I think, to be advising companies on their digital CX strategy. It is shrouded in mystery in a lot of ways. And also,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much ambiguity when it comes to all the different software that's out there and methods.
Yeah.
I'm sure you found this too in your work in digital. Every organization is a unique, special butterfly in terms of its customers, how they like to be communicated with, and all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Complexity
Hmm.
of the product,
Yeah.
who's already doing what at the company, whose toes are
Right.
you going to step on, who do you need to be collaborating with? Absolutely. A little bit different at each place.
Yeah. That's a huge point, actually. And so we're going to dig right into that point because I love it. The whole like stepping on people's toes situation.
Uh-huh.
Because, digital by its nature has its hand in a lot of different areas, right? We ideally work very closely with product. We ideally work very closely with marketing, with renewals, with sales. And so it becomes this
Hmm.
whole thing of guarding and protecting the customer experience while at the same time not quote unquote stepping on toes, or because there is some overlap, especially with, with marketing. It's
Yeah.
in digital, we're taking a lot of the classic time tested digital marketing strategies and just applying them to the customer journey. What's
Yeah.
your experience been like in your W2 work life and in your consulting life of navigating those challenges?
Yeah. This is super crucial. And I tell everybody who I'm advising now, you're not alone. Everybody's having this conversation
Mhm.
right now with marketing, with product, with other teams with whom we collaborate. In my W 2 life, I experienced it always. Like I said to you, I sat in marketing at Adobe and I needed to collaborate with tons of
Yeah.
the team that sat in CS and in product. And then at both Heap and Content Square, I sat in CS, but I have my marketing roots. So I love my marketers. I love collaborating with my marketers. And
Yeah.
the advice I always give is what's tricky about digital CS is that it's not something new. I'm not starting something from scratch. I'm
Right.
taking all these existing functions and I'm pulling them together in a way that is cohesive for the customer so that 1 + 1 = 100, right?
Mhm.
That's the goal. And so, frankly, it doesn't matter which team does certain things. Like if the product team wants to own the in app guide tool, great. The important thing is just like the strategy all needs to come together. So,
Yes.
in all of my W 2 jobs, like I tried to have my team play the role of, hey, we want to raise our hand and volunteer to be the ones who will make the cohesive plan for how this customer experience will come together. We're
Mhm.
happy to be the ones in charge of QAing all the experiences and having like a shared send calendar to make sure this all comes together. I do not recommend going in and being like, hand over all the tools to us today,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Doesn't
Yeah, yeah,
work.
yeah.
But like, we'd love to. And if somebody else wants to take the lead on the strategy, I'm also frankly fine with that. But like, let's get a strategy in place. Let's have some sort of review process of what's going out to the customers to make sure it all fits together. And then what I find naturally happens over time is that if my team can add so much value to that strategy and to the review process, the other teams naturally just want to collaborate with us more, trust
Mhm.
us more, trust our judgment,
Yep.
trust that we're making what they're putting out there even better, right? So I've come into companies where the product managers have been like, oh no, I'm the one in charge of product adoption, not you. I'm the one KPI'd for that. And I'm like, cool. I'm also KPI'd on that. Like, let me support you, let me help you. Lots of times digital CS is a new function, so this is new to them. But like, okay, let me kind of gently support anywhere I can. And then over time, they're glad that I'm also KPI'd on it, right? Because
Yes.
I'm helping lift it. But if you go in and are just like, yo, I'm the expert, get out of the way, of course, it's not going to work. But I'd say in every case, a natural evolution happens over about 6 months
Yeah.
where we just trust each other more and where more control comes to this digital CS team because people see it makes sense for there to be a central strategy.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I love so many things you just mentioned. But ultimately,
Mhm.
like somebody recently asked me, they were looking at hiring a digital leader. And the question to me was, what are the top 3 or 4 things that you would want to put on the rec,
Yeah.
to hire this role for? And I always go to number one, being just a collaborator. I mean, yeah, the fact that you have digital marketing experience is great. The
Mhm.
fact that you know these tools is great. The fact that you've run campaigns and done those kinds of things, all great. I love it.
Mhm.
But if you
Mhm.
can't collaborate with somebody, if you can't
Mhm.
work with other leaders and build
Mhm.
strategy together and just be like a solid, good human being, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen.
um,
And
yeah.
being able to have that empathy for where they're coming from. I mean, like I came from
Yes.
marketing. I get it. And I get folks being like, we're in charge of email, not you. We've always been in
Yeah.
charge of email.
Yeah.
And just being like, I get it. I get that you've always been in charge of this. But listen, like you're KPI'd on leads and closing deals, and I'm KPI'd on retention. So how do we there's a million different ways to split it, but like generally you have your things that you're better at and I things that I'm better at. And frankly, most marketing teams, unless they're like a really awesomely established lifecycle marketing team, in which case,
Hmm.
cool, take it. But
Yep.
most don't want to be like on the hook for the intricacies of
Yeah.
renewals and ongoing GRR. So makes sense.
It makes sense. The other thing that I really love advising, especially new leaders on that are
Hmm.
trying to establish those collaborations, is something that you hit on that we often don't do. Like many people don't do this, which is to go to their peers and the executives in the other areas of the business and ask what their primary goals are for the year, for the quarter,
Yes.
what they're KPI'd on, like what goals you're driving. And then that gives you the incentive that you can
Hmm.
leverage to help build that strategy together. It's like, great,
Yeah.
you're KPI'd on this is how my program is going to help you do that, and vice versa. I think we, for some reason, as humans, don't do that enough. I don't really know why that is.
It is weird. It's a
Hmm.
simple thing to just be like, what are your KPIs? Here are my KPIs. Let's make sure we're lifting both. And let's make sure we're both doing what we need to do. I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't know,
Yeah.
Alex.
I mean, it's like sales, right? You uncover the need
Hmm.
and you try to meet that need with your product. But, that's why a lot of us aren't in sales, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah. Plus one to that. But it's like, it's not even just like marketing and product. It's like, we also need to be best friends with all the ops teams, especially
Sure.
marketing ops for
Yeah.
tooling. And we
Yeah.
also need to be best friends with the data team. Like, whenever I
Hmm.
talk to a client and they're like, I don't have access to the data I need, I'm like, well, your problem is that you're not yet best friends with the head of data. Go become best friends, attached at the hip. Be really concerned about helping each other get your job done. Get
Yeah.
that data leader understanding why this is crucial to the revenue of the business.
Hmm.
And then let's talk about next
That's
steps.
right. It's like step number one.
Yeah.
Get your data house in order.
Yeah.
So with your clients that you're advising,
Yeah.
what kind of projects are you working on? Are there some commonalities that you're
Mhm.
seeing folks? I would imagine there's a good bit of artificial intelligence and leveraging
Mhm.
that in there, but what kind
Mhm.
of things are you working on?
Yeah, I'd say it falls into two main buckets. I
Mhm.
have some customer or some clients where the story is, we know we need digital. We know we want to leverage digital to increase our CSM to account ratio. We need to
Yeah.
do more with less. Holly,
Yep.
help us do that
Hmm.
by tomorrow. And we have no idea what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
So help us get started. We're in an era of lots of people who have been incredibly good at the human led CS motion and have
Hmm.
tons of experience in that,
Hmm.
suddenly getting put in charge of a digital strategy, and they're like, what? I keep hearing this word digital. What is it? Right? Like, I can try, but like I've never thought in terms of campaigns and programs like this. So how do I do this? And so that's definitely one bucket of just like, what's the lay of the land at the company? How do we get this started? What
Yeah.
are the right stakeholders to work with? What's the
Yep.
tooling?
Yeah.
What's the data situation? And then, as you said before, the other bucket is, hey, we're already pretty good at this. We've been doing it for a while. And how do we really take this to the next level, including AI? How do we really think differently? And that's really exciting. It's frankly amazing how big the spectrum is right now in the industry, from like, we hardly know the word digital to like, we're doing incredible things with AI. So for me, it's like really fun to get to play at both of those extremes.
Yeah, for sure. And the tooling is getting better and better to where
Hmm.
bridging those
I know.
gaps isn't as daunting as it once was even a year
Hmm.
ago or two. Is super
And people
cool.
who are just getting started now, no problem. You've learned from everybody else's mistakes in the last year. Now we all know a little more what we're doing in this emerging
Hmm.
field, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the goals of this show has always been to help demystify it a little bit to where it doesn't seem like this big scary thing
Hmm.
where you either have it or you don't is a thing of the past. Like digital
Yeah.
is its own entity. And in a ways, we've all been doing digital for a really long time. I would argue keeping notes in a CRM is digital.
Hmm.
It's all about how you use the tooling around you to make your humans more efficient, whether it's your human team members or whether it's your human customers.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. All those great humans that we
Yeah,
love.
yeah. Are there, this is one question I always love asking, which is
Mhm.
like, are there digital things out there that either you've helped build or you've seen in the wild that are really cool that has gotten you thinking about unique stuff over the past few months?
Yeah. I love that. Well, as far as what's out there in the wild, especially in the B2C space, which I know you love too, is
Yep.
like just anything like a Spotify Wrapped that's showing me my
Hmm.
usage, showing me how I got value from this tool. I love it. And I love that I'm seeing more and more companies in the enterprise space imitate that and do it, and maybe even calling it the pre QBR email, or maybe for
Yeah.
your lowest tier, it is kind of the digital QBR of just like, here's what we're seeing, let's do this, and let's have a meeting if we need it. But maybe this is all you need, is just to
Ha-
see how this is going.
Have
So,
you found a good way of doing that yet? Because there was a thread in the
mhm,
DCS Connect community not long ago
mhm,
where quite a few people were spitballing about
mhm,
certain ways of accomplishing it. I think Matic came up quite a bit in that
right?
conversation. I forget what other kind of solutions were in there. Have you come across a slick way of doing that? Hey, I want to have a brief chat with you about this show. Did you know that roughly 60% of listeners aren't actually subscribed to the show on whatever platform they're listening to it on? Now, as you know, algorithms love likes, follows, subscribes, comments, all of that kind of stuff. So if you get value out of the content, you listen regularly, and you want to help others to discover the content as well, please go ahead and follow the show, leave a comment, leave a review. Anything that you want to do there really helps us to grow organically as a show. And while you're at it, go sign up for the companion newsletter that goes out every week at digitalcustomersuccess.com. Now, back to the show.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think, honestly, it's a matter of like, you need a certain solution. It's like you just need the
You
APIs to come
just,
in. That's
you
the
need the
hard part.
data.
It's like the rest of digital, where it's like
Yeah.
building a campaign, that takes like 5 minutes. Getting
Yeah.
all the data you need for the campaign, that
That's the
takes
tough part.
weeks. And being best friends with the data
Yeah. And
leader
then
at your
turning that
company.
data into the insights that actually mean
Yeah.
something. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the tough part.
I mean, I will say some tools are better than others for sure. Traditional marketing tools like Marketo and
Mm.
HubSpot tend to struggle more with APIing that data in,
Yeah.
whereas like an iterable or, customer.io
Yeah.
is much better at it. And of course, a Matic just makes it even easier. So, yeah, I mean, whatever works for your company as far as how you get that API in, I just really suggest starting simply, not
Yeah.
worrying about it being like super beautiful.
Yeah.
Just make it super basic and kind of pilot it and try it. When we did it at Heap, we used SendGrid. And it was just like
Hmm.
pretty simple at first, see how
Yeah.
customers react to it. It was, of course, like one of the most opened, most clicked on things because everybody loves seeing their own data, and then grow it from there.
Starting simple is the key with any of that stuff. As soon as you like over design your first version, you're kind of like grabbing at
Mhm.
straws.
Yeah.
We are doing some interesting things now at my gig with Vitally, where
Mhm.
hashtag show sponsor, we're pulling in a bunch of product data and
Mhm.
product events via the
Mhm.
API, which is super cool. And the
Very cool.
system allows you to then identify and create like success metrics for your
Mhm.
customers where you're
Mhm.
tracking the same thing over time for all of the same customers. I guess my point is that related to your earlier point, it almost doesn't matter anymore what tooling you're using because a lot of tools, especially the modern ones that are API based, that are birthed in APIs, you can kind of pull that stuff. If you're not in SaaS, then I don't know what the answer is, but
Yeah. No need to tackle that today,
yeah,
Alex.
no, yeah, that's another topic. Yeah.
Yeah. You asked
Mm,
what have I seen others do or my own teams do. One other thing I'll shamelessly plug that my own teams have done, Alex, that I want to bring it up on your show because I'm frankly shocked at how often I go talk to clients and they aren't doing this. And I feel like
Oh
it's not
yeah.
rocket science. So
Yeah.
we talk about omnichannel campaigns, right? We
Mm-hmm.
talk about using email, in-app, and community together. But
Yeah.
I'm shocked at how many companies omnichannel simply means like we're putting the same one-to-many workshop ad in all three of those channels. And I'm like, okay, that's like
Yeah.
kindergarten. Like what? I mean, it's not that
They're not
hard.
wrong. It's omnichannel.
It is omnichannel. And kindergarten is a great place to start. But I just really think there's incredible power, especially if the KPI you're trying to lift is active usage,
Yes.
to use email and in-app together just like all the time, just seamlessly, just they are connected in everything. And so every email, in my opinion, unless it's like a rare thought leadership thing that you want to have linked to an article, but generally
Yeah.
I want every CTA to point into the product UI.
Yeah.
I want to get them in there using it, and I want to teach them in the product. If I'm designing a new user nurture and it has 10 touch points and I'm trying to get them to use features A, B, C, D, E because it's going to get them value in 2 minutes flat, then I say in my email, this is going to make your job easier in 2 minutes by serving up the data or the report you need or whatever. Click here and we'll show you how to do it in 2 minutes, literally 5 clicks, and then actually have a permalink open in your product UI, walking them through. And it shouldn't be 20 steps. It should be
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 or 5 maximum. And then you can link to more information if you want, but like get them that immediate value. And I will say it takes some getting like especially the product team on board of because
Yeah.
the product team will be like, no, you
Of
need,
course.
or maybe the CSMs will be like, you got to show them the super ultra complex, awesome use case on their first time because that's what rocks. And I'm like, nope, I need the most vanilla,
Yeah.
simple. I need immediate gratification. I need
That's going to
5
get them to
clicks or
churn real
less.
quick.
Yeah, I need it to be so quick. I need
Yeah.
immediately for them to see this value and be like, oh, I just made my first chart or whatever. And then they have the confidence that they'll come back the second time or the third time. But like whenever I would be QAing my team's like flows that they were building, I was always like, how can you get this earlier?
Pull
This
it
is
back.
too late.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
it. I need it in step 1. I need it in step 2. If
And
they
it's that
drop off, I
knowledge.
want them to, yeah,
It's
go
that
ahead, Al.
nesting of knowledge too. You know,
Yes.
you start with a very simple flow, and once you see that they've completed that flow, or you see in
Yes.
the product flags that something has been completed, then it's a nurture situation where, you know,
Yes.
it's not one flow to kill them all. It's 10 baby steps to get you
Yes.
to tackle that hard thing that will get
Yeah.
you to complexity. But it's like there's so many things that come together there. It's a combination of short attention span, adult
Mhm.
learning theory, where you have to
Mhm.
kind of repeat stuff a lot. Because in
Mhm.
each one of those follow on campaigns, you kind of have to do a little bit of refresher, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. And part of that alignment is I'm always asking clients, like, do you have a happy path, at least for the first
Yeah.
10 things you want a
Yeah.
new customer to be doing? And an answer I get a lot is, oh, well, our product can do anything. Choose your own adventure. Our product is so powerful. And I'm like, no, we need internal alignment on what is the prescriptive path, right? Because exactly what you're saying. It's just like, how do I make this simple and manageable? It's really hard for a digital team to come in. And sometimes I
Yeah.
think they're expected to come in and just magically build these like nurtures when the
Right.
company hasn't even decided
That's right.
or aligned on what's the happy path. So, key factor there.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That's so interesting. The other thing that I've seen a lot, I don't know if you have the same experience, but if I've gone in and audited like existing things, it's amazing how many of them like don't work. And I mean that in the most basic way. Like you click the button and it doesn't do it. And so,
Uh-huh.
as a user, you get the email or you get the pop up and you click the button, it doesn't do anything. And you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like
And I
test your
think
stuff,
that's
test your stuff.
test your stuff. And it's a huge It's huge work we need to do as digital CS leaders to really evangelize and advocate for our teams that 20% of their time needs to be reserved for
Yes.
optimizing, QAing. Like, it's not like you just put something out there in the wild and it's good forever. Like,
Go back to it every 6 months and make sure it's still
mhm,
relevant and fresh and
mhm,
works.
mhm, mhm. And
Permalinks
works.
aren't permanent.
Yeah, I love that, Alex. Very wise advice.
I need to make a nerdy t-shirt with that
Hmm.
phrase on it.
Very
Mhm.
catchy. I would
Nobody
wear
would
one.
buy it.
Oh, I'm ready.
You're
You've
the
got
only
one
one.
customer.
So a lot of times, so speaking of like project managers, digital program managers, that kind of stuff, a lot of times people
Mhm,
will ask me how to structure those teams from a
mm,
workflow perspective. And I always go
mhm,
back to mirror what product and engineering do,
mm,
sprint planning and 2 week dev sprints and all that kind of stuff. I
mhm.
know that you, after doing a bit of LinkedIn stalking, you are a certified Scrum Master.
Oh my goodness, yes. Mhm,
And I'm curious if that has informed how you think about implementing digital and the
mhm.
process that goes behind actually doing the stuff.
That is a great question. I think you bring up a really crucial topic because I think every digital team out there has way more options of great things they can be working on than they actually have time for. So, how do you kind of structure that and make it so that the
Yeah.
projects happen? So, that I think is kind of the first part of it, of what kind of the Scrum mindset helps with is the ruthless prioritization,
Yeah.
the concept of a backlog, the concept of we only have so much time or so many points. And so I always had a very open and ruthless prioritization process heading into a quarter. That's when I
Yeah.
have found is a really helpful time to get on the same page with all stakeholders and to really warn them. And it takes a couple quarters to get to this point, but to
Hmm.
start training them and warning them. If you come to me with an emergency project mid quarter, like, nope, there's nothing. We are not brain surgeons. There's no true emergency in digital CS. We should be able to plan a quarter ahead what the business most needs from us and where we
Yeah.
should be prioritizing our time, not your
Mm,
rando pet project.
that's super
So,
smart.
that I think is a very scrummy mindset. And I'll also actually say to people when they'll come with ideas that we can't fit into the quarter, right? The concept of like, yeah, that might be really great for next quarter. This quarter is closed. As far as like, do I really think about it being like 2 week sprints? Absolutely. With my teams, we need to have that transparency with our partners that we work with, of like a monday.com or a Jira or something, of like, here's where it's
Yeah.
all coming together. I
Organization
have
and communication of what you're doing and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't actually structured my team. I know lots of people have, but I've never structured my team as like we're specifically in 2 week sprints,
Hmm.
partly because all of my team members have always been working on about 5 to 10 projects at once that
Yeah.
don't necessarily, like, they all have different time horizons. But
Hmm.
having that all structured out in one place for all of our stakeholders to see and has been really crucial. And then as the quarter goes on, we're constantly building our quarter report out deck as we go, of like,
Yeah.
okay, this one's done, like, make that slide, this one's done. So yeah, the quarter has kind of for me been similar
Yeah.
to the sprint in the Scrum world.
I think that makes sense because a lot of the projects you work on in digital are those longer tail things.
Hmm.
One interesting thing that I found is in my last gig, a lot of what we did involved interfacing with the Salesforce, operations team, and they operated in 2 week sprints. Right.
Hmm.
And we didn't necessarily, to your point, we didn't necessarily operate in 2 week sprints, but the fact that we had to do so much interdependent with them kind of
Hmm.
forced us to live and have a toe in both, where we were
Hmm.
dependent on this team to do XYZ. And so we had to do sprint planning on our
Hmm.
prioritized things to make sure that things got put in place in time for us to meet the overall objective. But at the same time,
Yeah.
we were doing more macro instead of micro sprint planning then too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, love it. That's such a good example of what we were saying before about collabing with other teams.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
really just
you,
being like, oh, you like to work on a 2 week
yeah,
sprint? Great.
you meet them
We
where
will
they're
give you
at.
that structure.
That's right. That's right.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. One thing I always love to get an insight on is what you're paying attention to as a digital professional and in CS or even outside of the business. Where like, what do you occupy your conscious with in terms of content when you're not working?
My consciousness
Maybe
likes to consume
consciousness.
this podcast for sure. I also really love the daily stand-up. I'd say those are my two
Yes.
main ones. Lots of great newsletters and thought leadership out there in our field, which I really appreciate consuming all of that. And then outside of work, but it actually is strangely related to work, I'm currently reading the David McCullough's History of the Wright Brothers.
Cool.
It's so interesting to be reading about just innovation and
Yes.
bravery and doing the thing everybody thought was crazy in a completely different time, right? It's just the parallels to our day are really fascinating.
That's interesting. I mean, the Wright brothers are fascinating because now in the history textbooks, you kind of gloss over the fact that they were bicycle repair folks and stuff.
I didn't even know that.
And then they built an airplane. It's like, yeah, of course they were. But then if you really put yourself in that time frame, there were so many different groups and nationalities going after this powered flight thing. And then these two folks from Ohio.
Right. Good old Ohio. Well, and like the whole thing of like several people have died trying. And there was like this whole rhetoric of anybody who tries is a crazy quack. And I mean, just a lot of courage to go for it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I love that. Anybody you want to give shout outs to?
Yes, absolutely. All my teams who I've worked with are the best and have made all of this possible. I'll especially call out Christy Hollingshead, who was my boss at HEAP, and she was in charge of all the different things that needed to come together for digital. And so taught me tons about all we're talking about of how to bring this all together. And then I just want to give shout outs to the amazing people in our field who are just like bringing us together and making communities. I love DCS Connect. Thank you, Marie Lunny, like amazing. And I love like being a part of CS Angels, like so grateful to Gemma for starting that. So grateful.
It's a cool community.
So grateful to Jan for all the amazing CX Exchange stuff out there. It's just so great to there are so many tricky pitfalls in our world. And I just really appreciate people who are bringing us together to learn from each other.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Alex.
If you're in CS and you're feeling alone, the good news is that there's a ton of us out there that are willing and able to share and talk. And I think I've never been part of a community that's more open book. Everybody's just sharing all the time, which is so cool. So yeah, I hear you on that. Cool. Well, look, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Maybe we need to do a part 2 at some point, but where can people
talk about where it's all going in the future?
That's in the year 2000. Where can people find you, engage with you, hang out with you, learn about your business, all that stuff?
Please come hang out with me on LinkedIn, connect with me. Please come visit my website, hollygoodliffe.com. Please, if you're in San Francisco CS events, hopefully I'll see you in person or at other ones as I travel around.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thanks again for joining. It was awesome. And keep fighting the good digital fight.
You too, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Digital CX Podcast. If you like what we're doing, consider leaving us a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below. It really helps us to grow and provide value to a broader audience. You can view the Digital Customer Success Definition Word Map and get more information about the show and some of the other things that we're doing at digitalcustomersuccess.com. This episode was edited by Lifetime Value Media, a media production company founded by our good mutual friend Dylan Young. Lifetime Value aims to serve the content, video, audio production needs of the CS and post-sale community. They're offering services at a steep discount for a limited time, so navigate to lifetimevaluemedia.com, go have a chat with Dylan, and make sure you mention the Digital CX Podcast sent you. I'm Alex Turkovich. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.